Please subscribe our channel and hit the icon button.
The hidden value. Long, long ago, in a peaceful village nestled between misty hills and flowering meadows, there lived a humble and hard-working man named Bhimaya. Known to all as Bhima, he earned his living by carrying water from the river to his landlord's home several times a day. Though his work was physically demanding and repetitive, he performed each task with devotion and a sense of inner peace. Bhimaya used a sturdy wooden yoke balanced across his shoulders, with two large clay pots tied to either end. These pots were his trusted companions, simple yet essential to his daily work. One of the pots, aged and weathered, had developed a small crack over time. The other pot, in contrast, was flawless, with a smooth surface and a perfect seal. Every day, as Bhimaya walked the same path to and from the river, the cracked pot would slowly leak water, while the perfect pot remained full. As days turned to weeks and weeks into months, the perfect pot began to feel pride in its usefulness. It saw itself as superior, whole, reliable, and efficient. One morning, as the sun cast golden rays across the dewy path, the perfect pot sneered at its companion. "You know," it began, its tone sharp and haughty, "you are really quite useless. Every time Bhimaya fills you, you waste half of the water on the way back. What a shame. I, on the other hand, arrive at the house full, efficient, and worthy of praise. It's no wonder I'm favored." The cracked pot, already aware of its flaw, felt its spirit sink even lower. It had heard such comments before: subtle jabs, pitying glances, the quiet whispers of being less than enough. But this time it hurt more deeply. It had never chosen to be flawed. Time and use had worn it down. Ashamed and heartbroken, the cracked pot waited until Bhimaya's return journey to finally speak. As the man walked along the narrow dirt road, shaded by mango trees and flowering bushes, the pot spoke in a quiet, trembling voice. "Bhimaya," it said, "please, I beg you, replace me. I know I've failed you. I cannot carry the full measure of water, and I burden you every day. You deserve better." Bhimaya paused mid-step. He had always sensed a quiet sadness in the pot, but hadn't known the full depth of its despair. Smiling gently, he shifted the yoke on his shoulders and looked toward the riverbank. "My friend," he replied, "before you decide that you are a burden, I want to show you something." As they neared the landlord's estate, Bhimaya gestured to the side of the path. "Look along this trail. Do you notice anything?" The pot looked as best it could. For the first time, it truly paid attention. To its amazement, one side of the path, the very side it always hung on, was blanketed with vibrant blossoms: marigolds, jasmine, lilies, and wildflowers of every hue. The other side was dry, dusty, and bare. "These flowers," Bhimaya continued, "they bloom only because of you. Every day, the water that escapes from your crack falls upon the soil and nourishes the earth. I planted seeds along this path long ago, knowing you would help them grow. The flowers you've watered are the same ones I pick to offer to the temple and gift to neighbors during festivals." The pot listened in stunned silence, the weight of Bhimaya's words sinking deep into its core. "You've not failed me," Bhimaya said, his voice warm. In fact, you've done more than the other pot ever could. Your flaw is not a weakness, it's a blessing. The cracked pot felt something it hadn't in a long time, pride, not in spite of its crack, but because of it. Overhearing the conversation, the perfect pot fell quiet. It had never considered that usefulness could come in different forms. Ashamed of its arrogance, it addressed the cracked pot with sincerity for the first time. I am sorry, it said. I have been blind to your worth. I judged you without understanding what you truly did. Forgive me, my friend. The cracked pot, now glowing with a quiet confidence, replied, We are both needed. Together, we serve Bhimaya in different ways. I forgive you. Bhimaya nodded with a smile. You are both valuable to me. Your roles are different, but your worth is equal. Let us work together, not in competition, but in harmony. From that day forward, the two pots shared a deeper bond. The perfect pot no longer boasted, and the cracked pot no longer hid in shame. They understood that each had a purpose, and that true worth is not always seen at first glance. Word of Bhimaya's story traveled through the village and beyond. People began to speak of the lesson it held, that flaws do not define worth, and that every individual, no matter how broken they may seem, has something beautiful to offer the world. Elders told the tale to young children, teachers shared it in their classes, and monks included it in their teachings. The cracked pot came to symbolize not imperfection, but the beauty of unintended blessings. People who once hid their scars and weaknesses began to see them differently, not as shameful, but as proof of endurance and uniqueness. Even the landlord, who had once cared only about the volume of water delivered, began to notice the flowers along the path. He asked Bhimaya about them and learned of the cracked pot's role. Moved by the story, he began to appreciate the beauty in imperfection. Years passed, and Bhimaya continued his daily walks with the two pots. He never replaced the cracked one. In fact, he repaired it just enough to prolong its use without sealing the crack entirely. He knew that the little trail of water would continue to feed the earth and bring joy to those who passed by. Eventually, when Bhimaya grew old, he passed his story on to his children and grandchildren. They too came to understand the importance of compassion, of seeing beyond the surface, and of recognizing that everyone has a role to play, even those who seem flawed. And so the tale of Bhimaya and the cracked pot lived on. It became a timeless lesson whispered across generations and cultures. We all have cracks, but through them our light, our strength, and our gifts can pour out into the world, watering seeds we may never even see bloom.